had a wonderful rest period. We marched again for several nights until we reached the next concentration camp, Gross Rosen. The following day, we were loaded onto cattle cars, so tight that there was no room to sit down. Some stood and sat in their feces, and with little air, food, and water, many passed out and some died. One of the most unusual things happened to me during that trip. Even though we felt that we were doomed to die, someone in the cattle car started to play a harmonica. Since I also played a harmonica, I yelled over to him to throw it to me so I could play some of my melodies. When the harmonica landed on the floor, I mistakenly stepped on it. When I picked it up, one of the metal covers was damaged. While prying it open to fix it, I noticed something taped to the inside of the metal cover. I gently pulled it off, and all of a sudden found myself the owner of a $20 bill. I quickly put it in my pocket, played a couple of melodies, and returned the harmonica to the owner. I then quietly told Ignaz what I had found, and he almost fainted from the news. We had a critical decision to make. Should we try to smuggle it through to the next camp and face the consequences if it was found by the Germans, or should we discard it? We decided to keep the bill. I rolled it tight, tied it with a thread from my uniform, and inserted it into my rectum. Finally, on February 4th, our transport arrived in Dachau. We were ordered to remove all of our clothes and face the selection process. I then bent down a couple of times, and Ignaz checked to make sure that nothing showed. My $20 bill was not discovered, or I wouldn't be here to tell that story. Though we now felt rich, we couldn't even buy a piece of bread with the money because we were afraid to even mention it to anyone. While in Dachau, we could see through our window the bodies of the dead prisoners and the still living skeletons. From Dachau, we were transported to a labor camp near Munich. In this camp, we were able to contact some German guards to exchange dollars for food. Finally, at the end of April of 1945, we were again loaded into cattle cars and shipped to southern Bavaria to be liquidated. Fortunately, the American Army prevented the train to reach its destination, and we were liberated at the beginning of May of 1945 in a small town at a railroad siding in southern Bavaria. My father was shot during a roundup in my hometown on April 28, 1942, with 40 other prominent Jews before we were all locked up in the ghetto. My mother, my sister Toni, and most of the women and children with me in the town of Ghetto were transported to a Vernichtungslager, extermination camp, Treblinka, and gassed to death. In the fall of 1945, I went back to Poland to look for any survivors from my family and found none. In 1946, I returned to Germany, and in August of 1949 came to the United States. My wife Alexandra and I have a married daughter with 2 wonderful grandchildren. February 21st, 1944